Another problem known with the MT and its non-MT brethren is the screws, the little silver screws. The heads aren't, the hexes in the heads aren't really the proper size. They're a little too big. The screws are a little too soft. So when you try to tighten them, you round them out easily. You can damage these screws with ease. On the GT, you have nice quality black oxide steel screws. They fit the heads of your Allen wrench very well. You don't have to worry about stripping them out. Good screws almost throughout. There's a couple of little silver screws here and there, but I didn't have any problems with them. One thing I did though have a problem with on this GT is the travel of my rotor assembly back here. It tended to have the ability to travel too far in that direction, as far as towards the stabilizer. And it would travel so far that the little black arms on it could lock or go in and then get stuck, and it couldn't be put back by the servo. Not good. So in order to prevent that, I put a plastic washer just to the outside of the cage assembly back here, and that prevents too much throw in this direction mechanically. So that can't happen even mechanically. Even the gyro settings fail, radio settings fail. It cannot lock mechanically anymore. Good idea on my part. Another good thing about the GT, can't see it in this video, but the motor mount is a aluminum plate. There's a couple good things about that. One, the screws are just long enough so that you get the motor in place without a washer. So, and it's the same scenario with the MT, but the MT has a plastic mount, and when you try to tighten the screw, or you're really getting it tight because you're kind of just squeezing into the plastic, you got to kind of depend on your Loctite. That's okay to an extent, but you're not getting your screws as tight as you can with the GT. Plus, since it's aluminum, that also acts as a heat sink. Other than that, minor difference is if you are using an FM or long antenna radio system, your antenna mounts are beneath the skids, whereas on the MT, here's another little known issue with the MT versus the GT. Let's go back to those rod guides again for the rotor control. Notice the little mount that the horizontal stabilizer is screwed to. You see how it's kind of floating above the rod there? That's because I had to cut it off. It was not the right length to match up with the other two guides, so all I did was put a bend in the bar. Completely useless, and it was in the way. It got cut off. The GT, a little more thought into it. It's aluminum. I was really hoping not to have to cut it off, but guess what? It has a little slotted hook, so that does not get in the way at all. It also looks a lot better. Nothing to cut off there, so we got tighter guides and an aluminum mount there that looks pretty good. Nothing to cut, nothing to modify. Much better. What it comes down to, if you haven't figured out yet, this $3 extra, well worth it. Another thing to note is the blade grips are wider on the GT. Not necessarily as a better thing, it's just something to note. I noticed that it's wider, so I'm just mentioning it. The flybar weights on the GT have two set screws to hold them in place. So if one comes loose, you still have the other one as a redundant system to hold them in place. The weights on the MT, the typical one screw to hold it in place. I haven't had a problem with that, but then again, I didn't have it very long before I crashed it either. I gotta say one thing with the MT though, it's been a doggone sturdy helicopter. It crashed hard and there was hardly any damage. It had $25 worth of damage, and that was it. It's good, so I bought new parts for it.